Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode. We are talking about the new movie Terrifier 3. Tell me about it, babe.
Well, let's just let people know this show is a little bit different than our just standard single review show. She has not seen any of the Terrifier movies, so normally we wouldn't do a show like that because we don't want to talk about something, unless she just is going to interview me about a movie I watched. But she's got a cap on this one that goes into a list of what is it?
The top 50 scary movies according to science.
And since Terrifier is on that list, we decided to blend it into one thing.
And I did watch All Hallows Eve.
Yeah, which I'll lead you into all that. But let's show you the trailer for Terrifier 3. If you've never seen 1 and 2, first of all, you wouldn't watch 3 anyway. And second of all, you shouldn't watch this. And whatever. There may be a little blood and guts and gore in this trailer. We don't know if it's the red band one or not. So be warned. Check out this trailer.
Here we go. See if it works.
He survived the most famous serial killer since Jack the Ripper. The 5-year anniversary is coming up. I think a lot of people would really like to hear from you after all this time. Want to know what it's like to be in the presence of that kind of evil. What goes through your brain when he's close enough to you. You feel his breath. I saw him today.
Who? How can you be sure it was really him?
I could feel it.
Who's this Santa? He's scaring my kid.
Yeah, he's scaring me too.
Hey, Santa's handing out presents!
Why would he come back here? Even if he was alive, which he isn't. Wouldn't you want to get as far away from here as possible, as far away from you?
We both know this isn't over. I have to go back to the Terrifier.
It's still buried there, isn't it?
Might be the only thing that could stop them. Looking forward to the best Christmas ever, filled with fun, smiles, and laughter.
See, that's creepy.
Very much so.
All right. Tell me about it.
Oh, Jesus. All right. So if you don't know the history of Terrifier, it all started in a movie she mentioned a few minutes ago called All Hallows Eve, which was a anthology film. It's a great little anthology horror film, which is bookended by a story featuring Art the Clown, which, if I'm not mistaken, the bookend stories that are within this movie were the original shorts that Damien Leone did, or Leone, or however you say his name, did of Art the Clown, and then they infused him into that story. So I don't think he shot new stuff, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
Art became so popular just from this one movie that he got spun off into his own film called Terrifier, which I believe was 2016. It was an independent movie shot on a very small budget. It did well, fans loved it. So then they made Terrifier 2, which went insane. It became this massive hit. It came right off the heels of COVID too, so it was kind of surprising. I think it was 2022 when it came out, and it was a movie that was big enough that it was making millions of dollars at the theater, and so much so that it was becoming the talk of the town in both people being disgusted by it, people loving it, it making money, being an independent movie making a buttload of money, and they even at the end of it they even submitted it for an Oscar. Wow. No one did more of it as a joke because they know no one's going to give this an Oscar. So anyway, so obviously the movie did so well, Terrifier 3 became a thing. Now, I didn't see either one of the first two in the theaters because the first one was such a smaller movie. If it got a theatrical release, it was very small. I saw it on video. The second one, they sent me the screening link for it.
Oh, wow.
because it got a very small limited release. This one, they said there will be no screening links for this. It was theater only.
That's
And
awesome, though. That's great.
The movie already made well over its budget in its first weekend, and it knocked Joker 2 off the list.
Wow.
You know,
well, Joker was struggling.
Joker
anyway.
pretty much
Too
is
bad.
kind of considered a bomb.
That's too bad. I'm sure it's found its audience though. There are people that are gonna like it.
See, I didn't hate it.
think.
I didn't love it, but I didn't
Uh-huh.
hate it either. And I'll be interested to see how you connect with it.
Okay.
I think the biggest thing before going to this, because since we didn't get a chance to talk about Joker because you didn't see it, I figure we'll probably do a Joker show after it comes out on Blu-ray, and then
Okay.
we'll
That's
both watch it. I think the biggest problem with Joker is that it's not the same movie. And everybody anticipated a certain vision. Then you have the Harley Joker connection,
Yeah.
and it's a whole different movie. I think it works fine. I came out of it saying I didn't hate it. Like, I think it's getting harsh
Yeah.
criticism.
People are being.
But at the same time, I didn't walk away going, man, I loved it like I did the first one.
Right.
So it's a wholly different thing. Now, you can dissect that and discuss it and talk about how there's accusing of the director hating DC and wanted everybody to be away from DC and this and that and whatever. Believe whatever you want. Doesn't really matter at this point. I think it was always meant to be its own thing and didn't matter about the rest of the DC universe. Anyway, we're here to talk about a much better clown movie.
A different clown.
And I will say Terrifier 3 is a way better movie than Joker 2, but it's a completely different movie than Joker 2. So one of the things I found interesting, I have to tell you, that's kind of funny. In that trailer, you see Chris Jericho.
Yes,
right?
I was gonna ask. I'm like, wait,
Yes.
is that what's
So
in there?
here's funny, and this is a stupid me moment. Chris Jericho was supposedly in Terrifier 2 as well. I never saw him until I rewatched it, going back and watching this time, and I'm thinking, man, how did I miss Chris Jericho the first time around? I mean, he's such an obvious face. And I found out the first time I watched this, I never watched the mid-credit scene, and he's in the mid-credit scene. That's why he's never been in the movie to me, because everybody keeps talking about Chris Jericho's back. It's like, screw y'all, Jericho's never there.
He's never there.
And it's important to have seen the mid-credit scene because part of the opening of this movie is feeding off the mid-credit scene.
Okay.
So if you didn't see the mid-credit scene, that scene's going to be like, what? Kind of thing, right? So thankfully, I saw it when I rewatched Terrifier 2 out of my stupidity and not seeing it the first time around.
Long enough.
But anywho, the third one picks up. Each film has kind of picked up where the last one left off. This one has done the same. The opening sequence, which is probably the first, 10, 15 minutes of the movie, which there was a lot of reports when it played at one of the festivals that people were walking out, and not because they were hating the film, but because most of them were disturbed by it or grossed out by it. I can see why they were leaving. But
is it like vomit inducing?
It depends on how you take gore. But I think the problem is a lot of people are very affected when children are being killed on screen.
Yeah. And we talked about that a few weeks ago when we talked about a different movie.
Yeah.
Because in foreign films, it happens.
Oh, it's Speak No Evil. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, it happens more often than in U.S. films. U.S. films really shy away from it because they know the audience won't do it. And in the Speak No Evil?
Yeah.
Because the original director, when he saw the American version, he's like, I don't know what's up with American audiences. Yeah. But that's what it is. So that I can understand.
Well, and there's a remake of the movie Silent Night that came out years ago. I think Stephen Miller directed it. I love the movie. The opening sequence kills a kid.
Yeah.
Do I want to see kids murdered on screen? No. But I think there's an impact level that when you see something like that, you know this movie is going to pull no punches.
Right.
It also makes it a little more terrifying because now you know there's no kids safe.
No one is safe.
Because normally you watch it, okay, these people are safe, these people are safe, your star is safe. The Terrifier movies, everybody's getting killed left and right.
Yeah, it's open.
Like one of the crazy things I think about the first movie, which I purposely never told you because when you finally sit down and watch them, which you will someday.
I will. I have to.
There's a fun twist in the first movie that I want you to see. But the whole movie is focusing on one person, only to realize that it's a whole different person the movie's focused on. So I
love that.
Yeah, so it's those things that make it work. So
smart.
Anyway, as the film has gone on, the series has gotten a bigger budget. It's got a little bigger in the storyline. And so in this one, a couple of things I'm usually against in horror films, especially slasher genre. Whereas one, they give you a little more backstory to the killers and the reasoning
it's better
behind
when
it.
they're just crazy.
Art kind of needs it because this movie doesn't make sense sometimes.
Because you mentioned he doesn't speak.
He never speaks. He's like a mime.
Okay.
He doesn't laugh. He doesn't growl. He doesn't scream. He doesn't make any noise whatsoever. So anytime, like when he's killing people
And I
or doing
think-
something. He laughs. He's like,
And I think we're used to a little bit of banter with most serial killers.
yeah. He doesn't say a word. He doesn't even, like I said, he doesn't even make a squeaking. You know, a lot of times you have silent characters, but they may yell or grunt. Nothing.
Wow.
Ever.
That's got to be really difficult.
Yeah, it's
As an
never. But there's another character that's in the movie with him too that does. So it kind of serves as his voice on some level. It's not him speaking through somebody else. It's a different character. And what this movie does, this third one, is it kind of the mid sequence from the last one and this one kind of bring the first movie, the second movie, kind of infuse them together to form into this new movie.
Oh, okay.
Right. And there's a little bit of kind of timeline jumping.
I
from
like
where,
that.
like the first movie,
I'm gonna have to pull out my.
again,
Pull
I
out
can't
a
explain the
scroll.
first movie like that, but the first movie's got a timeline jump. The second movie, mid-credit scene, its sequence happens at the end of the events. So when we get into this new movie, it jumps back to that event so we can see kind of how this stuff sets up, and then we jump to present day.
This seems like a Saw type of movie. I'm gonna have to draw
Yeah,
my, grab my paper.
it's not that all over the place.
But I'm gonna grab
it-
a piece of paper.
I don't think you need that's not that level. But this one also is not only dealing with a little more backstory to art, which I actually enjoyed. We get a lot more art on screen, which again, that's the other thing that a lot of times I think ruins these movies because the fans want Jason and Freddy and stuff, but then when you start giving them too much, they lose their appeal.
They get hokey.
Art is so mesmerizing and fun to watch that you want more art.
Yeah.
Like there's a whole sequence of him in a bar with Clint Howard, Ron Howard's brother. This guy, I don't know who plays the bartender, and then this other guy who's like a mall Santa. And there's a whole thing with him drinking and hanging out before he snaps. And it's like a sequence that doesn't serve a big purpose other than getting him a Santa suit. But it's a fun, disturbing,
Yeah.
crazy scene to watch. And it's like art hanging out with people. And you're like, that was one of my favorite scenes of the whole movie because I'm like, it's like watching the Predator get to do stuff,
Yeah.
you know. So you have Art's backstory. You get a little more art this time around doing things and not just showing up, killing, and kind of disappearing or just maiming people. And then you also get a little bit of story about Sienna and Jonathan, who are the survivors from the previous film. And their like PTSD mentality of trying to put their life back together and what's, you know, and then you got the normal people don't believe them because of their saying, oh, I saw them again. And then, no, it's like 5 years later or whatever.
Yeah.
And, you know, so anyway, it's got some layers to the story and probably the most story that any of these three movies have had in this one. There's also a supernatural element that they've kind of leaned into kind of at the end of the last movie and a little more into this one, which I don't know how I feel about it, but it doesn't hurt the film. I think it makes the film make a little more sense, even though it's also kind of convenient on some level. But
A lot of them do, though.
Yeah.
I'm even
I'm not expecting Shakespeare with these kind of movies.
your Jasons and Freddys
Yeah.
have a little supernatural.
Well,
thing.
and I will say, the first movie, when it ends, it does a moment where it kind of makes him, okay, this is obviously not just a guy killing people. There's a little more to him. So it sprinkled in the first one. I think now that they've got a budget,
Yeah.
they're spreading it out a little bit more. But where this movie shines and what everybody wants to see are the kills and the gore and the murder and the maiming, and it amps it up. This is one of those few trilogies or franchises that I think each entry keeps getting better. You know, it's like, I love the first movie, don't get me wrong, and it's kind of a unique thing. And if you don't know, there's a scene in the first movie where a girl is hanging upside down and he guts her from her crotch to her face, completely in half. And you don't know, how can you top that? In the second movie, there's a girl that's slaughtered in her bedroom and she's in pieces and he's putting her together and her mom comes in. How do you top that? This one does just that. And it's horrifically gory and beautiful in its design all at once because the effects are really well
That's what I was
done.
gonna ask about.
I kind of mentioned how the effects visually and creatively and stuff is all done brilliantly, but I was more impressed by the creativity of what they were going to do is what made it. Because, you know, they're fun kills, even though they're kind of jacked up.
Yeah, it's messy. It's disturbed.
It is. And this
So-
isn't a scary movie.
That's what I was gonna ask. Is it scary? You don't think so? You think it's more disturbing than scary?
It
or-
is. It's a little disturbing and unnerving. If you're someone who doesn't handle gore, you will not be able to watch this movie.
blood and guts.
Yeah, a lot of it. I mean, there's
Okay.
gallons and gallons and gallons of blood in this movie. By the time this movie ends, everybody in this movie is either dead, beheaded, maimed, or covered in some sort of bodily fluid. And it's like, there's not a person in here that's clean.
Did you notice there was another movie that we watched with all the blood? the vampire movie?
Oh, Abigail.
And
Yeah.
one of the things, since I haven't seen this yet, one of the things I appreciated with that is it felt like there were no cuts, and if it was, they just came straight. They came straight back into the puddles.
Yeah.
Is that like this?
That's kind of like this because art starts out perfectly clean, like you see him in this photo.
Right.
But by the end of the movie, he's dirty and he's covered in blood and he's gross and everybody around him is the same thing because there's like one character that comes out of this bathtub that's been congealed in blood and probably organs and everything else, and they come out and they stay that way the rest of the movie.
That's awesome.
It's
I
disgusting.
appreciate that.
But
because that takes a lot of effort and continuity, by the way.
It does, and that both Art and this other character are in full face makeup.
That's what I was going to say. How's the makeup look?
Yeah, his art is great. Art always looks fantastic, and if you watch, he's got a little tiny black dot on the end of his nose.
Yeah,
they somehow never cover that, so you can see that nose all the time. But the other character's got way more of a mutilated face prosthetic that they've been around since the first movie, and they're hard to watch because they're just like where Art has that creepy clown but skeletal face. You can look at him and be like, okay, that's fake, right? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Where this other character looks like somebody you might have known in a car accident. You know, their face is deformed, and you see Interview with those kind of people, you know, and so it's a little more unnerving to look at. I don't find the movie scary from a standpoint of the jump scares or the terror from that element. But if you're scared of things like the Jasons and the Freddys, you know, they have more jump scares than this movie does. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of straightforward, just maiming and mutilation. And it almost walks the line between slasher and the torture porn genre.
That's what I was going to ask you, because you mentioned some scenes. And
yeah,
I'm like
Saw and stuff
some
like
people
that.
are going to just totally be out.
It's a lot of stuff of like somebody getting their, but there's brutality here too. That's where he kind of throws you. Somebody gets chopped in the arm with an axe. They usually get chopped in the arm 5 or 6 times before they cut their arm off. It's not like chop blood. It's chop, chop, chop. And the sound effects are overly enhanced where you hear this squishy, squirting. Yeah, it's gross.
But that's what it would be.
Yeah. And
that's what I'm saying. These kinds of things, I don't like blood and guts, but I appreciate the work that these people put into it. Like the sound and the effects and the blood and the goopiness. And
well, I feel like this series was originally, and it still is to some extent, but I felt like each story was designed around the kills. Mm-hmm. And as it's gone, they're giving more to it, and it even has kind of an ending where he already announced if this one did well, and it did, that we're going to get a 4th one. It might be the final one in his story that he's been trying to tell. And it does leave you with the clear, it's going to keep going kind of thing. But there's stuff about it too that's so strange, uncomfortable. Like there's moments of, say, Art covered in blood sitting on a bus.
Yeah.
And somebody looks at him and he's just like,
yeah.
You know, and people, you're like, why would they have let him on that bus like that? You know, but at the same time, you never know what people are acting like. And, you know, so there's a lot of that weird stuff. I love Terrifier 3. I love the first 2 as well. As I said at the beginning of this, if you haven't seen the first 2, then you shouldn't be watching this one anyway, because they directly lead into the next one. If you like the first 2, you will probably like this one. If you hated either of the other ones, you will not like this one either. So it's one of those movies that's for a very specific audience. But what I applaud the studios, theaters, and I hope kind of the industry takes note that a movie like this comes out that's technically kind of an unrated movie. I'll have to double check, but I don't think it's labeled as a rated R movie. I think it's an unrated thing.
That's even scarier.
And
are they?
Yeah, it's a not rated movie.
They're allowed to do that?
Yeah, well, they are, but it's one of those things that usually most theaters don't put it out.
Correct.
Or they have a special screening.
Like it's late at night or something.
Yeah, so like when I went up today.
That's what I was going to ask. So is there an age in theory?
Well, I know in France this movie was banned.
Oh.
But I don't remember if it was France or another one. They said it was banned, but it wasn't banned from theaters. It was banned from anybody under whatever their age is seeing it. Even with an adult with them,
and
they could not break
the theater. Tell me what happened.
Yeah, there was only about. I went to like 10:55 in the morning. She went to church. I went to this.
Disturbing.
But there was probably about 8 to 10 people in the theater. 2 people walked out.
At the beginning during the get.
No, they waited. I would have been. I don't know if they might have walked out because they just didn't like it. I don't know. but they walked out kind of in the middle. So I mean, there's been some jacked up stuff in the movie happening. So I don't know if maybe one of them wanted to leave, and the other one was making them stay, and then they finally had enough.
Yeah.
But then, of course, there was the lights come up, and a guy gets up, and he's got his kid that can't be more than 10 or 11. And I'm like, even I was bothered.
Were they Mexican?
They were. Even I was bothered. Like, I looked at him, and I'm like, wow, that kid should not have been watching this movie. And I'm the guy that shows people movies they probably shouldn't be watching.
Mm-mm.
Like,
Wow.
this is not one that if my kids were little, I would have not let them watch this movie. And I let my kids watch Saw.
Do you want a tissue?
No, it's stuck. It's not going anywhere.
I know you're struggling with your allergies.
So anyway,
sorry.
I love this movie. It will be on my top 10 list this
Wow.
year. But again, being a fan of the genre, I love the evolution of this series. I love that it's getting recognition. What I was trying to say a while ago is I wish they would take note of not necessarily not rated films, but a genre film like this, that the fans will come out to it if you let them put it out. You know, because this film made on a $3 million budget, I think. And
But the effects and stuff.
Yeah,
but
it made almost 20 million or 14 or whatever it is.
Wow.
So, I mean,
can we nominate it for something?
Well, it could easily probably get nominated for effects and stuff. But again, these kind of movies are usually ignored.
Yeah.
But my thing is more for the genre movies, things like this. Studios tend to sweep them under the rug, or we don't want to do a big push, or the theaters don't want to bring them in. People aren't going to pay for this. Let's put Top Gun in another theater instead, because we know everybody will pay for that.
Yeah.
Because a not rated film is going to bring a limited audience.
Yeah, but still.
But here, obviously, a not rated film means you have to be accompanied by an adult, not you can't watch it. And clearly, the movie did very well on its own accord in its opening weekend.
Yeah.
Being the #1 movie of the weekend.
That's awesome.
You know,
so good for that.
I believe it was #1. But anyway.
Okay. So
I love this movie, so moving on.
That leads me to this list here.
Yes.
So this is what's called the science of scare. I will post a link here into the chat. So there was a group of scientists who did an experiment in 2023, and they asked for 250 volunteers to come and watch 50 scary movies. But what they did is they put them in a screening room, and they hooked them all up and were monitoring their heart rate and breathing. So that's how they decided scientifically what the scariest movies were.
Can I say, before we get too far with this, it was a $3 million budget to make the film, I believe. And they made $18 million in its opening weekend.
That's awesome.
So it made $15 million over its budget. And I don't know how much they had to spend on advertising and promotion.
Crazy.
So it's another massive hit. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, so it's fine. So Terrifier 2 is on here. I wonder why 1's not, but that's okay. It just says Terrifier 2.
It's probably because 1 being a lower budget, I think 2 stepped it up a lot more.
Oh, okay.
So they probably were trying not to put 35 of the same movie.
So anyway, according to the list, the #1 or top scariest movie is Sinister, which that's the one where that thing comes out of the film with Ethan Hawke.
Yeah, I love the movie.
That movie is scary. I will give it that.
Is it?
I don't know if it's the #1 scariest movie. I thought it was scary. Out of all of these, I'm going to say anything in the Conjuring universe or Insidious universe, those movies are scary to me. But subject matter wise, you know how I am. Anything about possession or things, entities or demons or whatever, those get me. #2 was The Host, that's okay.
Is that the Korean movie?
No, this is the one where all the ladies are having a seance on Zoom. And they don't say goodbye or whatever, so then they start getting picked off one by one.
That one.
Oh, you might not have seen it.
Are you sure that's the one?
Yes, it's this one.
Okay.
I've watched it. I've watched all of it.
But how do you know, according to this, which movie it is? Because there's multiple movies named The Host.
Oh, well, because it's on the website.
Oh, okay.
Okay. #3 was Dumb. Skinamarink is the most boring thing we've ever seen.
Here's what I will say about Skinamarink. Skinamarink is one of those movies that's more of an art house horror. I can see it being unnerving to somebody because of its lack of anything happening. So if it's going by like the rating of the heart rates and stuff,
yes,
the anticipation of what might be happening could be. But I agree.
We watched it. We were so bored. We had to stop it.
And I was upset because I had so many people that were like, this movie's so good. Oh my God, I can't read it. And I was excited to watch it. We were both like,
horrible. Then comes all the Insidious and Conjuring movies. They're all on here. Insidious 1 and 2, Conjuring 1 and 2, and The Devil Made Me Do It. Like they're all on here, all of those movies. So I will give those ones are the scariest to me.
I do enjoy those. I didn't find any of them scary, but I'm one that is not a fan of the ghost possession genre.
See,
Just because I always find them boring.
See, I do,
but
I'm scared of it. Why do I watch them when I'm so scared of them?
See, and I don't find them scary. I'm always bored by them.
Yeah.
But I do find the Insidious movies and the Conjuring movies fantastic.
And then I'm like, why do I watch them?
And even The Exorcist, I think the original Exorcist
it's just a good movie.
It's a great movie,
Yeah.
but I don't find it scary.
It's not scary to me anymore.
But at the time it came out,
yes,
I can see
how it was. Yeah. And I'm like, why do I watch these when I know they're scary? But also science. According to science, watching scary movies is actually good for your health. Something cardiovascular because of the heart rate, like it is good for you. And I actually heard
kind of like you're getting cardio.
Yeah, I heard an interesting podcast this week. I don't know how I stumbled upon this, but this one girl was saying that when she has anxiety or feels like a panic attack, she watches horror movies because it helps her disassociate. That's not real. So my panic attack is gonna pass. If Freddy's killing somebody,
Freddy's similar
not real,
idea of
listening
to like heavy metal music to calm down.
Maybe.
Because like a lot of times, like if I was in my martial arts world, if I was competing in a tournament or I was going to a belt test or something like that. No, I know a lot of people listen to pump themselves up, but I would listen to Metallica or something because I needed to relax.
Yeah.
So like, and it had to be the heavier, not a slow music, and it kind of bring my brain down and my heart down.
Yeah. So it was interesting. Anyways, we watched all the Hell House movies. Those were good.
Did we finish them?
We did.
I know we watched the first one.
Maybe we didn't.
I don't remember.
Exorcist of Emily Rose, I thought was really good.
Okay movie.
Smile 2 is coming out soon.
This weekend.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Finally. That's another Speak No Evil trailer. I'm tired of seeing that trailer.
Talk to Me. We had waited for so long, and we were both.
You didn't really like Hereditary, did you?
I don't.
I love Hereditary. I thought that was a great movie.
I watched it again.
No, but I know, but you've seen it. But
I like it. The ending just that last 5 minutes is just weird. It Follows classic.
It Follows is good. Talk to Me was not that good.
It was not.
The Descent is. I can see how that one can be terrifying.
Because you're in that cave and those things are coming at you.
That gets into your claustrophobia as well as the creatures on top of that.
It was good.
That gives when you start getting multi-level things that can affect a person, like somebody that not affected by the horror at all can be terrified just because of the claustrophobia.
Right.
It's like you being terrified of drowning.
Yes, like any kind of these movies that are in the water, I find to be a little panic.
You get nerve-wracking just because of the water, not because of the movie itself scaring you.
No, like that movie with the girl from Twilight when she's in underwater. Like that movie's not great, but them being stuck underwater and she's trying to run in her underwater suit, trying to get that. I don't know. It was recent.
The recent movie?
Yeah.
Because that's not the scary one we watched.
It wasn't scary.
No, I know, but I mean,
to
the
me,
horror
it was like,
about the killer pool.
I guess so.
Is that what you're talking about?
No.
Oh.
I'll have to go look at it.
Right, anyway.
Paranormal Activities. I'm glad I had never watched it.
Did you only watch the first one?
I only watched the first one, but I'm glad I did because you know what? Again, I appreciate whoever put effort into pulling that lady and dragging her down. So they did a lot of.
I think honestly, now that because I know you originally refused to watch not out of fear, but because you don't like found footage.
Yeah, because it makes me nauseous.
But what I will tell you is the Paranormal Activity movies are very much the Saw franchise.
Oh, is it?
Timeline and back and forth. So those are ones I think you should actually watch the entire franchise because I think you would be like, oh, this is over here. Oh, that's her. Oh, this. Oh, because there's like one movie you watch the whole thing and then the last scene of the movie makes you realize, oh my God, this was 3 movies ago. This was happening at the same time or before or whatever. And,
okay, I'll watch it. I'll get a notebook like, what's her name? Underwater with Kristen Stewart.
Oh, yeah, I like that movie. That's Aliens Underwater.
That just made me nervous because I'm like, we're underwater.
I think that's an underappreciated movie. That movie is basically Aliens, but underwater. I thought it was good. But what I was going to say is the interesting thing about Paranormal Activity is that one is another one very much like Terrifier that came out of left field.
Yeah.
And it made a shit ton of money. It's a movie that made Blumhouse a studio now. And everybody was talking about how terrifying it was and scary and creepy.
It is
creepy. It was the first movie in a long time that when I finally decided to go watch it, because it looked boring to me from the trailer. I had no interest in it until people started talking about it.
Yeah.
So I remember going on a Sunday morning by myself. I sat in the theater before it started. I got a little nervous because I'm like, is this going to be finally the movie that kind of scares me?
Yeah.
I came out of it, I was like, nope, it wasn't. But I really liked this movie.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't understand everybody's terror of it. But I tell people a lot when I review movies, I have to rely on my audience sometimes because I'm so jaded, I guess, and I'm so unaffected
You see so much.
by anything when I watch it. There's very rarely anything that even gets me emotionally. Like I might get like a single teardrop or my one feeling starts being affected. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm broken, but I have to see how other people react and realize, okay, these people were jumping, these people were terrified, these people. So then I'll write it basically saying
They should have put you in the science study. They'd
Right.
be like, "What is wrong with this guy? Are you okay?"
I think this guy died.
Other
Anyway,
noteworthy, Babadook, good.
The Babadook is good.
That
but
little boy needed to
yeah,
be
that movie.
smacked.
Did you actually go sit and watch it? Or did you-
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
It's a fantastic movie, but you get so infuriated by that damn kid
I know.
that it's hard to get through initially.
And then they put Quiet Place Part 2, not 1. But I'm like,
I think it's because it was a different level of.
yeah, maybe.
It also feels like they're putting a lot of the more current
Yes, instead of going
chapters
back.
instead of all the other ones, but whatever.
Anyways, Autopsy, Jane Doe, Insidious. Okay, The Ring. I went and watched both the original, which I think
The
is,
Japanese version.
I think that one's scary with that
the
little boy.
Japanese version is creepy. The remake was good.
Yes. Quiet Place.
Quiet
Oh, there's
Place, yeah,
Quiet Place. Chainsaw. Then we get into some like good stuff. Chainsaw Massacre, the original Nightmare, original Halloween.
So I will say,
Exorcist.
I did find the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre terrifying when I was a kid, when I first saw it. But that's also one of the most successful independent films ever made.
Yeah.
Because
Good.
most people don't realize that the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre was like guerrilla filming. It was not a big budget movie. It was a independent film, just like the first Terrifier.
Wow.
And it spawned a franchise,
Wow.
you know.
Yeah, so good.
It also, from my understanding, it kind of set the tone of how these kind of movies were made. There were ones before it.
Yeah.
And then Halloween kind of set the tone of these proper slasher flick. And I think all three of those movies are.
And then Nightmare on Elm Street we just rewatched yesterday
on
because
4K.
the new 4K version's out, so you should check that out.
I want to say this: between Texas Chainsaw, Nightmare, and Halloween, which are classified as the three big iconic murderers, if you will, Nightmare is the only one that feels 80s. It feels as time it was made. I love the movie; I think it's great, but I think Halloween.
Even though Chainsaw is 70s.
Yeah, well, both of them were 70s. Halloween and Texas Chainsaw were 70s. They feel 70s from like their clothes and stuff.
Yeah.
But their movies, I feel like I watch and they feel still as creepy and as dirty and as heavy as they always were. Where Nightmare,
it's more of that formula.
well, I think because it that 80s vibe, and I think part of it's because the rest of the franchise went into a thing where this is a prime example of giving us too much Freddy.
Yeah, too much
Where
Freddy.
they made
is
him
not
more
okay.
silly and goofy, where he's very creepy in the first movie, and we forget that sometimes.
Yeah.
So when you go back and watch it, I personally don't take Freddy as seriously as I did the first time, because I know he's going to come up with a quip or something later on.
Yeah.
Whereas Jason never talks, Michael never
Correct.
talks.
Yeah.
They're
So
just-
maybe that's that thing.
Yeah, that's
maybe
just a
too
me
much
thing.
Freddy is too
Yeah.
much. Anyways, Barbarian.
Oh, that movie's
That
fantastic.
was creepy.
And
That one did great with
there's
Gibby.
a trailer for a new movie I saw today that looks so good. I'd never seen the trailer for. I don't remember the name of it now, but it says "From the Disturbing Mind of Barbarian." And you see the new one. It's called Companion. I'll have to show you the trailer. It's like, what in the hell is going
Okay,
on?
then we get to the Nun. The Nun and Nun 2. No, I'm dead.
I love those movies, but I don't find them scary at all.
I do. You know, her big eyes are like,
She looks like this.
I know. That's what scares me. Anyways, we get to the original It. I watched the original and I watched the new one. I like the new one, just visually what they were able to do, but I appreciate the original.
I think
I think together
Tim
you get
Curry's-
a good story.
Tim Curry's clown
True.
is scarier because he looks like a real clown.
Yeah.
The other one looks like some sort of a serial killer clown. Tim Curry's clown looks like the clown that would show up at your birthday party and then murder
And
you.
then kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else? Exorcist. We talked about.
Exorcist is another one of those that I've never found that movie terrifying. I think it's a great movie, but I find it very boring.
Yeah. Because
But-
it's like quiet, quiet, quiet. Something happens. Quiet, quiet, quiet. Something happens.
Yeah, everything
Speaking
happens in the
of-
final act of that
Speaking
movie.
of Blair Witch,
I love the first Blair
Okay.
Witch movie.
I remember we went to go see Blair Witch.
Did you
We had,
throw up?
we had eaten Taco Bell. I remember specifically.
Yeah, because you threw up in the hole.
I
didn't you?
threw up. I started running. I didn't even make it. I made it kind of to a trash can. I didn't even make it to the bathroom.
So for you young audiences that may not know about this, when the Blair Witch
Oh,
came out,
God.
it was one of the first
Found shaky cam. Found footage.
found footage, like kind of big movies, right? And the whole promotions behind it was that it was really footage that was found. It was not an acted movie, and somebody spoiled it because they made a website that showed the
Like
crime
these people
scene
are
and the history.
missing.
Yeah, and they did a whole thing, and some people spoiled it because they went on and anyway. So throughout the theaters, people were getting motion sickness, not because the movie's gross or terrifying as much, but motion sickness throwing up all over the hallways of the
It was
theaters.
gross. It was like when you were in school and they had to put the powder
Yeah,
down.
I was fixing to say that. It's like you could not go to a theater then and not see that gravel powder. Some of y'all may not know what I'm even talking about, but there's stuff you put on oil, and they used to put on vomit in schools and things like the blood. They have this gravel you put on there. It helps soak it up, and the scent of it. That stuff was all over the hallways of the theaters. Everywhere. You couldn't sit through that movie while watching people run out of the theater.
That was
not
me.
just because of Taco Bell. Some people were doing it.
No. It's a motion sickness. So
I believe Llewellyn was with us
Llewellyn,
too.
she threw up.
Was
too.
Jeff with us, or was that back? Were they still together?
They were
anyway,
there. I
doesn't
think
matter.
they were all
But she
there.
ran out too.
She did too. We just
And I was cracking up, laughing at everybody.
anyway. So I've never watched it again since then.
Until recently.
Until recently, I actually sat down on my TV and watched it, and I had it on the far TV so that I couldn't get two things. And you know what? It is the most boring movie until the last 20 minutes.
But here's the thing.
Oh, it's so boring.
Here's what I think is in the brilliance of that movie. It's boring because it's just life happening.
Yeah.
But if you really watch, again, at the time you watch it, it's a little more intriguing because we had no idea where it was going. You kind of knew where it was going, so you're like, and you also have the thing of this movie made me sick. I'm not really want to watch
I don't
this.
really want to watch
But
this.
it's not a movie I rewatch now because once you know it, it loses its kind of its magic. But I think the genius in this movie was, again, I think this was another one that, I don't know if the Blumhouse was a part of this one or not. I don't think they were. Maybe they were. But anyway, it's another one of those that when you watch it, you're like, what are they building towards? What is going to happen? And the fact that you never see anything creeps you out.
Yeah.
Like that final sequence, when I saw it, it creeped me out.
Well, and but the other thing that bothered me is I'm trying to hear, like, what is she screaming? And then she goes quiet, and then you just see the kid there, and then it's like.
Well, because that's that.
But that's why I think this one, the Hell House, I think they did the same thing better.
I don't think it was better, but I agree with what you're saying.
Because, you go to that room, and they're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That girl's there. Okay, anyway.
But I think the fact that it works is just that you know nothing, and it makes it even more unnerving.
Correct, yeah.
And everything in that movie, it feels like real life.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like.
It is real life. Yeah,
So,
because they weren't actors.
Yeah.
It was barely scripted.
I mean, they really were actors, but.
Not well known. It was barely scripted.
No, they were.
Anyways, Evil Dead Rise, liked it. Lights Out, thumbs up, thumbs down, 7 up.
Lights out, breathe out, lights out, or
Yeah.
whatever.
Saw. They put Saw 10, which is the one I don't like as much, but I love the whole Saw franchise. But
Well,
that's okay.
my theory on that is because Saw 10 was a little more gritty and more, instead of being the clever traps, it was more of a torture vengeance.
Yeah.
Because, it's going back to kind of the beginning of it all and his first anger.
That's true, too.
And where the other ones are clever and societal in their storylines and things like this.
Yeah.
We love the Saw franchise here.
Then The Grudge.
Again, the Japanese Grudge movie, yes. The American remake
The Sarah
is okay.
Michelle Gellar one.
The American remake is okay.
It's okay.
But the Japanese version is fantastic.
Yes, I think I watched both. The Japanese one scared
Did you ever
me.
see The Ring versus The Grudge?
No.
The Japanese one. I think
Is The Ring on here with Samara?
Yeah, we already talked
Okay, yeah,
about
I like it.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I think we might even have
Then
it.
we had Oculus, which I remember we watched it and I had forgotten it and I watched it. It was a really good movie.
Is that the one that has
The redheaded lady.
Starbuck?
Yes, yes.
The chick from The Mandalorian?
Oculus.
Katie Sackhoff?
Yes.
From what's that show you used to like? In Montana?
This one. Karen, whatever her name is, Karen
something.
Gillan.
Yeah, there she is. Katie Sackhoff.
Yeah, Katie Sackhoff. Yeah.
You're thinking about Karen Gillan. I'm thinking about Katie Sackhoff, which is in Longmire.
Yes.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Anyways, Ouija Origin of Evil. I'm actually glad I watched. Okay, I went out of order. I watched Ouija Origin of Evil, and I've never seen Ouija, but they kind of connect because this is kind of a prequel sequel, so it's really cool. Scream, of course. Hello, love all the Scream movies. They are not scary. They're fun. Poltergeist, the original Poltergeist. We not Poultrygeist.
Not Poultrygeist. The original Poultrygeist creeped me out as a kid.
I did too. And then Invisible Man, the new one.
It's a great movie, but it's not a scary
It's
movie.
just a smart movie. Get Out, I think, is scary just from a racial perspective that people could be trying to racially like enslave us again. Scary. The Witch. Okay, remember I didn't like The Witch when I first saw it the first time. The one with
it's really boring.
with Anna Joy Taylor.
Yeah.
It is boring, but then at the end it finally picks up. It's another one with finally the very end, like the last 30 minutes, it picks up and it actually gets good. I enjoyed it this time. Black Phone, I'm going to tell you, real life scary, that's the scariest movie on this whole list because Black Phone is the one with Ethan Hawke.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's a crazy person kidnapping children in the 70s or early 80s. The reason this is scary is because that happened. We would be out there at all hours of the day and night. No one was watching us. And if some weird creeper van drove by and they're like, hey, you want some free balloons or some candy? I've been like, okay. So we could have easily been kidnapped.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry, I got sidetracked. I'll double check it. Sadako versus Kayako.
Yes.
Which is Ju-on and the Ring series.
Oh.
They're basically they did do the.
I'm gonna watch
it. It's on Shudder, I believe.
Okay, we'll watch it. And
I've seen it.
And we have a subscription to Shudder. We have all this. 28 Days Later.
That movie is.
It was creepy.
It was creepy and chaotic because I think that's one of the first times we saw zombies that ran.
Yeah. Before World War
Z. It may have
Z.
happened before, but that was the first time that they weren't just they were like the rage virus zombies.
Yes, and
the Crazies had a version of that too, but this one I think.
And this was before Walking Dead, where we see the guy wake up in the hospital alone, like what?
Yeah.
And I was like, I wasn't prepared for that movie because I was just like,
up and then his penis was out.
I was just like, what is happening? And why are these things like? No, they're supposed to be like.
The movie that gave us Cillian Murphy.
Yeah.
And in case you don't know this, they made 28 Days Later, then they made 28 Weeks Later. Which I don't think Cillian Murphy's in the second one.
I don't think so.
And they had just announced, I think they just finished production on 28 Years Later.
Here it is, yeah.
That it does bring back Cillian Murphy, the original director, everything. So everybody's looking forward to seeing that one.
Oh, goodness. What's going to happen 28 years later? Anyways, Alien, we've watched all the Aliens recently. Maybe at the very beginning that was probably scary, but when it first came out.
Well, I think Alien is the only movie in that franchise that is a horror film.
Yeah.
It's a slow burn. It's a very dull movie on its surface. When it came out in the 70s, it was, I think, a little scarier.
Yeah.
Aliens turned it into more of an action horror franchise, and that's kind of what it's been ever since.
Yeah.
But I think the first Alien movie is pretty scary on its standpoint when it is, as it holds up now, not so much, but at the time of its release.
Yeah. Well, that's it.
You didn't? Did you ever watch the original thing?
I did.
That movie is fantastic.
It's a little bit weird, but
it is with Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
Did you watch the second one?
No.
It was technically looked like as a remake, but I believe it was actually a sequel. It was also
because I was just trying to figure out what the thing actually is.
Yeah.
And then you get Mm-hmm.
John Carpenter movie.
Yeah. It's good.
The Thing is a great movie.
It is good.
But it's more one of those movies, I don't think it's scary at all, but it's one of those you watch more for.
I'm just trying to figure out, like, what is it?
Mash up creatures and disturbing.
Well, and then the thing.
Prosthetics.
Because it's kind of, what did it end up being?
I believe it's an alien, isn't it?
Yeah, because they end up trapping in that thing.
Yeah.
And everybody starts going crazy. And so you think everybody's just trying to go crazy and kill each other because they're out there in the snow for so long. I think we ended up watching it together. Anyways.
I don't remember.
Did we not? I think we did. Anyways.
The second version
those are the top
thing,
50.
which was a remake, what we thought, I believe, if I remember correctly, ended up being kind of a sequel.
Mm-hmm.
I like the new one, too.
Yeah, I thought it was good because I had never seen it, and I do think we watched it together this last time.
I don't remember.
I just thought they were all going crazy. The worst part was when it kind of took over those snow dogs.
Yeah.
That was gross.
Also, Bad Batch Season 2 on.
No, these are my list of things I need to watch. I have a list of things to watch. Anyways, top 50 movies. All right. Let's bring it back home, babe. Tell us, we have 3 things on our website.
Yeah, so first of all, go see Terrifier 3 in theaters. The more money that kind of movie makes, the more often we'll get those kind of movies released. We've got some digital copies of Deadpool and Wolverine, probably the biggest movie of the year so far, probably total.
A long time.
I think Inside Out 2 may have made more than that still.
Oh, wow.
But Disney's having a good year. Twisters, we got more digital copies. We had a digital copy run of this. That was over. And
we had
then
the
they
2-pack.
No. We
Did
had
we?
just digital copies. No, we had the original movie for
Oh,
giveaway.
okay, regular.
Then we had digital copies of
Now we have
Twisters,
more.
and then they came back and they gave me more digital copies. So it's back up and
Free
going again.
movies.
And then we still have some copies of some older stuff that I had extras of Horizon, American Saga Chapter 1, The Beast Within, which we'll be discussing in a couple of weeks. The Watcher still, and then Exhuma that we'll be probably do a little show, or we may or may not because you haven't watched it. So anyway, so that's what we got.
That's it. All right. We'll see you soon with more information.
Peace out, dog.